It was one of those perfect Saturday mornings, bright, crisp, the sun hitting just right, begging you to tackle some chores before the afternoon urge to nap takes over. My backyard pool had been screaming for attention for months. The water had gone murky, littered with leaves, a faint green hue creeping in that practically shouted, "Clean me." So, I decided today was the day. I rolled up my sleeves, grabbed my tools, and started draining the pool. Now, let's be clear, draining a pool in our neighborhood is 100% legal. I triple-checked the Maple Grove HOA guidelines, city ordinances, and even called the utilities department to confirm I was in the clear. As long as the water didn't flood someone else's yard or gush onto public streets, and I wasn't dumping chemicals into storm drains, I was golden. I had everything set up, hoses routed to proper drainage lines, filters in place, all the responsible homeowner stuff. But in HOA territory, it turns out common sense doesn't always win when someone's got a grudge. Enter Linda Prescott, the self-proclaimed empress of our HOA board. If you've lived in an HOA neighborhood, you've probably met a Linda. Early 50s, always hovering near her front window, parading her yappy little terrier half a dozen times a day to snoop on everyone's lawns, phone at the ready to document the smallest infraction. Despite being just a board member, she brandished her clipboard and fake smile like she ran the whole subdivision. I should have known draining the pool wouldn't escape her radar. About an hour in, with the water level dropping below halfway, I heard the telltale crunch of sandals on gravel, her dog barking like it was auditioning for a horror movie. I looked up, and there she was, Linda, peering through my fence slats like a private investigator. She didn't say a word at first, just stood there, arms crossed, squinting like she was tallying up HOA violations in her head. I gave her a polite nod and went back to work, hoping she'd get bored and move on. No dice. Minutes later, she let herself through my side gate uninvited, mind you, which is absolutely not okay, and marched into my yard, phone recording in one hand. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I set the hose down calmly and explained, draining the pool, following all rules, checked the guidelines, got permits. I offered to show her the printed HOA and city regulations I'd kept handy, pointing out how the hoses were filtering water properly into a designated drain, nowhere near anyone's property. Linda wasn't buying it. "You can't just dump all that water into the sewer. You're wrecking the neighborhood's infrastructure. That's hazardous waste," she barked, clearly clueless about basic pool maintenance. I stayed cool, repeating my steps, showing her the setup. But Linda, true to form, was already on her phone, dramatically dialing, saying she was calling the cops. "You're going to be fined for dumping toxic chemicals into public drains," she declared, pacing like she was starring in a crime drama. I wasn't worried. I knew I was in the right, but having someone threaten police over something as trivial as a pool drain isn't exactly fun. I figured the cops would show up, see the setup, realize nothing was wrong, and leave. I underestimated Linda's flair for theatrics. 15 minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled up, lights flashing, no sirens. You could almost hear the neighborhood curtains twitching as everyone peeked out to catch the latest gossip. The officers, polite but stern, walked into my backyard with Linda trailing them, practically vibrating with glee. "This is the homeowner," she announced before I could open my mouth. "He's dumping dangerous chemicals into public drains. This is an environmental hazard. I demand he be fined and the HOA notified immediately." One officer, Sergeant Daniels, turned to me for my side. I laid it all out: the city-approved drainage, the filtered water, the documentation. I handed over my printed guidelines and permits. They took their time, inspecting the hoses, checking the water flow, even calling utilities to verify. After about 20 minutes, Daniels returned my papers with a nod. "You're good," he said. "Everything checks out. No laws broken here." Linda's jaw practically hit the dirt. She sputtered, her voice climbing octaves, but the officers cut her off, explaining no crime had occurred and they had no reason to stay. I thought that'd be the end of it, but Linda wasn't one to slink away quietly. "This is against HOA rules. He can't do this without board approval. I'm filing a formal complaint and fining him for damaging community property," she huffed, storming out, her dog yapping in her wake. The officers gave me a sympathetic smile, apologized for the hassle, and left. But the saga didn't stop there. By Monday, an HOA letter landed in my mailbox, signed by Linda herself, accusing me of improperly disposing of hazardous water materials and slapping me with a $500 fine. I wasn't letting that fly. I gathered my evidence permits, the police report clearing me, utility confirmations, and requested a formal HOA hearing. At the meeting, Linda spun a wild tale, painting me as a reckless homeowner endangering the neighborhood. But when I presented my documentation, including the officer's report and the city's approval, her story fell apart. The other board members, fed up with Linda's power trips, sided with me. The fine was dropped, and I got an official letter clearing my name. The real win came later. Linda's stunt didn't go unnoticed. Neighbors, sick of her constant meddling, started showing up to HOA meetings. A few months later, at the annual board elections, Linda lost her seat. The neighborhood got quieter, and I refilled my pool without a hitch. Draining my pool almost landed me in handcuffs, but it ended up draining something better: Linda's reign over our HOA. Next time I clean my pool, I'll invite a few neighbors over, just in case Linda swings by with her phone again. Standing up to busybodies doesn't just clear your name. It makes the whole community a little better. What would you have done? Ever dealt with a Linda? I'd love to hear your stories.